Hello and welcome to IW Chicagoland Adventures. Today we have a big announcement to make. We are officially making it our goal on this channel to visit all 77 of Chicago's community areas. As you can see from this map of our progress thus far, it almost looks like a redlining map. And honestly, that is kind of sad. We really need to tour more places. And so that's going to be our goal, is to fill in those red gaps and hopefully see more of the orange on our channel. Without further ado, let's walk through the progress we've made thus far. We're going to start our rounds in the far northeast in Portage Park. Yes, we technically went through this neighborhood while we were biking up to Ravinia, but we didn't really see the neighborhood, we just went up Sheridan. Therefore, it's going to be orange. The same can be said of West Ridge. We went through West Ridge when going up the canal on the way to the Baha'i Temple, but again, didn't really see it, therefore it's orange. On to North Park. We went through North Park twice on the trip to the Baha'i Temple and then also on the trip back from Ravinia through the North Branch Trail, so we're going to put that one as blue. In terms of Albany Park, that one's going to be orange because we only went through that going up to the Baha'i Temple. Next up is Lincoln Square. We went there significantly on that trip to the Baha'i Temple, both on the way up and at Ravenswood Metro Station and heading west to retrieve the bike coming on the way back. So therefore we're going to mark that neighborhood blue. The next neighborhood we're going to look at is Edgewater. Again, just like Portage Park, we only went through that neighborhood on the way up to Ravinia on a bike along the lakefront. Doesn't really count. The same can be said of Uptown. There's plenty to see in Uptown, including like Asia and Argyle. We haven't seen any of that, so we're marking that orange. The Lakeview community area, on the other hand, contains Wrigleyville. So we definitely saw Wrigleyville and we saw the lakefront portion, so we're going to mark that as blue for sufficient. The same can be said of Lincoln Park because we went up on the lakefront and then also down on Clark in the Wrigley to Guaranteed Rate Field trip. Next up we have North Center. This is where we started the run portion of the trip to the Baha'i Temple. We've seen it, but not sufficiently. We haven't seen the residential portions, so we're marking that as orange. Getting closer to downtown, we've obviously been on the near north side, which contains like Old Town and River North. Been there several times. This includes Navy Pier, and it includes the lakefront trail that we've, at least the portion of it that we've been up several times. One great example is the run to Walgreens up the lakefront trail and seeing Navy Pier. That run covered a fair bit of it, including the famous Oak Street shopping district. So we're definitely going to mark this as blue. Hell, it even contains the Goose Island journey from a while ago. But yeah, we're going to call it blue because we've seen it plenty of times and we're going to keep seeing it again and again on this channel. The same can be said of the Loop community area. I can't tell you how many times we've been on the Riverwalk into Millennium Station. We've even been through Maggie Daly Park once, and we've been through the New East Side. That was from a while ago, but yeah, we're gonna see the Loop plenty of times. We've already seen it plenty of times, and we're marking that neighborhood or community area as blue. And then the same can be said for the near south side. We've been to Meigs Field, Northerly Island Park, we've been to Museum Campus, we've been to McCormick Place, all of that. That's going to be an immediate blue for that community area. And Armour Square, we can say the same thing about that. We've been through it on the way to Midway, and then we've also been through Chinatown twice now. Moving on to Bridgeport, we've been there twice, once on the trip to Midway, but then also on the Rock Island journey, where we went back through Palmisano Park. So for me, the combination of those trips makes it an easy blue. Next up is Douglas. We've been here twice, once on the trip from Wrigley to Guaranteed Rate, and then once on the Blues Brothers Marathon along the lakefront. These two trips I count as sufficient to call Douglas blue. Oakland is an interesting one. It is the smallest community area, I think, in the whole city, or one of them. We only went along the lakefront, but honestly, that's a significant portion of its land area, so I'm going to count Oakland for now. And then going through Kenwood, we went along the lakefront and then also on 47th Street, so I'm going to count that. The same goes for Grand Boulevard. We saw the former location of Ray's Music Store for the Blues Brothers, and so we're going to count Grand Boulevard as well. And next up, we have Hyde Park. Hyde Park, we've been through on the marathon, the Blues Brothers Marathon. Same can be said of Woodlawn, but we haven't really been into the interior of any of them, and especially U Chicago. We got to check that out. Next up, South Shore. We've been to the South Shore Cultural Center, and we've been to Rainbow Beach Park. Those two I consider sufficient, along with a little bit of residential section. I consider sufficient to make that blue. And then moving on to South Chicago, we've seen a fair bit of it, including the Triple Rock Baptist Church from the Blues Brothers. And so we're going to blue out the South Chicago neighborhood. Moving to the East Side neighborhood, we've been through Calumet Park on our way to the Indiana border in the Blues Brothers Marathon, but we haven't been to any other part of the East Side. Quick hint for the upcoming videos, that's going to change, but for now it's orange. Alright, we've completed the lakeshore. Now we're going to move west a little bit to Pullman. We've obviously been to the Pullman Museum on this channel, but we haven't been to any other parts of Pullman, but I think that's okay, because ultimately the rest of Pullman is mostly industrial with maybe a Walmart supercenter. So I think we've gotten a good sense of Pullman and toured what we need to tour, so we're going to call it blue. To get to Pullman, we had to run on 111th Street, and that took us through West Roseland, which is part of the Roseland community area. So I think we've covered Roseland sufficiently to mark it as blue. The same can be said of West Pullman. We went through that neighborhood on the Major Taylor Trail. Pretty cool trip, and we also saw a little more of West Pullman, including this solar farm on the Blue Island branch of the Metro Electric. So I'd say we've sufficiently seen West Pullman on this trip. On our Rock Island journey, we obviously went to Blue Island, but to get there, we ran from Beverly through Morgan Park. So that means that we get to blue out Morgan Park and Beverly on this channel. We also briefly went into Washington Heights on the St. Patty's Day trip to Pullman on the Major Taylor Trail. We turned around at 103rd Street Washington Heights Station, but we ultimately didn't go into that much of Washington Heights, including Brainerd neighborhoods, so we definitely want to see more of that community area. Moving north a bit, we get to the Back of the Yards neighborhood, which is part of the New City community area. We definitely went through there after going through Canaryville, which happens to also be part of New City, and that was on the bike trip to Midway. But ultimately, we just went on 47th Street, and we didn't see that much of the neighborhood, so we're going to count it as orange. As part of that trip west on 47th Street, we also went through Brighton Park. And I just zoomed into the part where we cross from Brighton Park into Gage Park on Kedzie. And then, of course, to get to Cicero Avenue and Midway Airport, we had to go through West Elsdon and ultimately end at Midway, the northern half of which is located in Garfield Ridge. Moving back northeast a bit, we look at the Lower West Side, which we went through on the Chinatown and Pilsen trip, the one between the two basketball arenas. We've also been through Little Italy / University Village area, which is ultimately part of the Near West Side community area. And that also includes like Union Station. So, yeah, we've been there plenty of times. But the same cannot be said for West Town, which includes like Wicker Park, and we've barely been through there, just on the way back on Grand Avenue, the West Side bike trip. And the same can be said for Humboldt Park, which we just rode our bike through on the West Side bike trip. Here you can see me zooming into Grand and Cicero Metro Station, and that's actually the northeast border of Austin. We've technically been through there, but barely, so I'm counting that as like a slightly brighter red. Belmont Cragen, same deal, we just went through there on the bike trip. And that's the same with Montclair. And we only visited Logan Square when we went up Elston on the way to O'Hare. And you're going to see a similar theme with neighborhoods like Avondale and then Irving Park and Jefferson Park. We've technically seen Forest Glen, but I'd like to take a look at Sauganash and some of the more residential areas. We've only been on the North Branch Trail there. So we're going to mark Forest Glen as orange. And then Norwood Park, we've only been through there once on the bike trip on Elston. So we're going to mark that as orange as well. And then Edison Park, we've been through a tiny bit of it at Elston and Devon, but we're going to mark that orange as well. We have not sufficiently visited Edison Park. And then finally, O'Hare, we have truly sufficiently seen this neighborhood. We've gone down Cumberland Avenue, and then we've also gone to the multimodal facility. Don't worry, you'll see more of O'Hare, but I think we've seen it sufficiently enough to call it blue. And that's going to be it. The rest of these community areas we simply have not seen on the channel yet, so we're going to mark them in red. This is our current view as of posting this video, but don't worry, we're going to have some more videos and we are going to fill in these gaps. Be sure to subscribe so you can watch this map get filled in the rest of the way. Thank you all for watching, and see you in our next videos.